Once upon a time, Quake, Counter-Strike, Tribes, and Unreal were the de facto standards for massively multiplayer fragging. Since then, most shooters have been permutations of these stalwart franchises, incorporating little to no innovation. So it stands to reason that when one of the Golden Four receives an update, that it's something to take notice of, and Unreal Tournament 3 is definitely worthy of attention. Utilizing the reflex-heavy requirements of its forebears, UT3 manages to remain familiar while adding a bevy of enhancements in the process.
Enemy nemesis.
Games like Unreal Tournament 3 normally don't have stories to follow, but here there is some semblance of one to get you through the slog of the single-player campaign. You play as a team of vengeance-seeking mercenaries who have been called into a war where destroying enemies in an arena somehow turns the tide. While the prose is a thinly veiled guise to keep you playing, the campaign does do an excellent job of showing you the ropes, teaching you about weapons, vehicles, game variants, maps, and so forth. You can also play through it online with a friend, but it does little to take the edge off one arena-based battle after another.
Oh, that had to hurt.
But who are we kidding? Regardless of whether you have a PC or a PlayStation 3, you're interested in Unreal Tournament 3 for its multiplayer options. And as you might imagine, there are plenty. One major disappointment is that there are no new game types to speak of. Instead, you get the typical deathmatch and capture the flag fare, and a semi-replacement for the insanely popular Onslaught option, now dubbed Warfare. While the framework has remained basically the same, the actual substance has not. There's a good amount of new vehicles in UT3, and we're not talking about the typical two-story mechs and tanks either. First of all combatants now have a hoverboard in certain game types. No longer do you have to slowly plot across the battlefield once all the vehicles have been taken. And that's just the beginning. The Necros machines are unlike anything we've seen in a shooter. Appearing far more organic than mechanic, these vehicles give UT3 a unique twist, even if some do look like the tripods from Mortal Worlds. Weapons are a big part of any shooter, and there are 11 different models to experiment with here. And experiment is definitely the key word. Each armament has at least one alternate firing method, though most of them amount to dispensing a larger payload versus smaller, quicker bursts. Still, utilizing the alternate functions of each gun in the right situation is often the difference between average and expert players. The one downer is that there's no real standout where new guns are concerned, and for vets of the series, alternate fire isn't anything new. Right next to weapons, maps are what ultimately determine a shooter's long-term prospects, and you won't be disappointed with what's on offer. The maps cover a wide variety of sizes and shapes, with some built specifically for certain game types. And when those maps do wear out their welcome, you can always download or create your own, and share them across both the PC and PS3 versions. The single-player campaign may be a glorified training option with fancy cutscenes, but the multiplayer portions of Unreal Tournament 3 are about as robust as they come. On the PC, it's basically status quo, but on the PlayStation 3, you won't find another first-person shooter with this much multiplayer content. With the advent of USB ports, the PC is no longer the only platform capable of mouse and keyboard controls. This holds true in the PS3 version of UT3, as it supports both the 6-axis controller and the old standby. Both, when properly tweaked, perform well. The default setting for both is a little slow when turning, but you can always head into the options and adjust a few sliders to get things up to speed. And speed is of the utmost importance in Unreal Tournament 3. If you've ever heard the phrase Twitch gaming, this is what they're talking about. Split-second reaction time and a dead-eye aim will overcome any weapon advantage. Things are a little slower in the PS3 version of the game, but if you've never played UT on PC, then you'll still think it's the fastest shooter you've ever played. Some argue that players using a mouse and keyboard setup will always have an edge on those who play with a controller, and while that's not necessarily true, the powers can be balanced using a list of filtering options that include control styles, dedicated servers, and game types. The experience can be tweaked further by mutators like zero gravity or increasing or decreasing the speed of the game. Overall, the control you have over how matches are played, whether on the PC or PS3, is impressive. Inevitably, a great shooter almost always comes down to how well balanced the weapons and vehicles are. You can definitely tell that UT3 has been designed by people who have been doing it for a long time. No weapon or vehicle is completely overpowering, yet in the right hands, any weapon or vehicle can be overpowering. This is what keeps players coming back for more, and regardless of which platform you buy it for, that's exactly what Unreal Tournament 3 will foster. The expertise trickles right on down to the net code. When you can play a game this frantic on a wireless connection relatively lag-free, you know you're dealing with professionals. It's almost funny to have to mention that an Unreal game is running on the Unreal Engine, but the code has become so enigmatic that it's almost its own beast at this point. Where the PC version of Gears of War had issues scaling itself back for underpowered rigs, there are no such issues here. Whether you have a top-of-the-line machine or an old clunker, you can tweak the settings to get a playable result. Of course, on the PS3, things are locked down, and a happy medium has definitely been found. It runs at a consistent clip and looks on par with Gears of War on the 360, though you can definitely achieve superior results on a handsomely equipped PC. Whichever version you buy, the game looks great, although we hope that developers eventually learn to get more out of the engine in future PlayStation 3 projects. If you're looking for an excellent multiplayer first-person shooter for your PS3, go and buy Unreal Tournament 3 right now. Nothing else on the platform can touch it at this stage. On the PC, where you have a lot more options, things are a little more complicated. Just keep in mind that whatever version you buy, you're doing it to play against other humans online. If you have no friends and no broadband connection, then UT3 will be a snore. When twitching out against opponents around the globe, it can be as addictive and deep as video games come.